Boom. We are alive, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here with you today. Been a little while since I've been back online. Just been enjoying my time. This has been one amazing bull market ride since March 2011 or 2020 last year. 2011. Jesus. What we're going to do today is we're going to dive in and take a look at Bitcoin, kind of our leading star north light indicator here. Boom. On the screen right now, Bitcoin on the 6 hour. Now, first off, we could make some conjecture right away that, is this a distributional event? Could Bitcoin be going down? Yes, the architecture often looks similar here, but it's actually the supply and demand characteristics down here that we don't see giving us any warning signals. So currently, when you break above the box like this, if you often see a lot of movement, limited price spread to the upside and a lot of supply come in here, this is usually kind of an indicator of the bull market being over. We have not had that yet. We have not had a distribution top yet. So I'm leaning ultimately still very bullish. I've been chewing up this supply line, and with Ethereum kind of leading the way with its bull market breakout. I mean, here from the top of the box, Ethereum's already jumped up 26%. Or from the top of the box with Bitcoin, we're only up approximately 12%. Ethereum has been kind of leading the way, at least the last week or two, into the bull market. And a lot of people start to think to themselves, oh, hey, Bitcoin's going up, everything else is going to go down. And, I've been using the DeFi perpetuals in our private group to kind of share my sentiments around what this looks like. And here we can see that, we're sitting very, very nicely above the top of the box for our DeFi perpetuals right now. For those of you that don't know, the DeFi perp is a basket of around 25 different currencies and tokens that FTX has put together. And what's nice about this is kind of like let's say our S&P 500 of the DeFi sector. And right now, we're currently what appears to be our backup phase. Now, generally, again, these backup phases do something like this before taking off much higher. But the fact that we're seeing bullish signals in the DeFi sector alongside Ethereum and alongside Bitcoin, I think is ultimately a sign of the times and an indicator for what I was talking about. The last 2.5, 3 months, basically, that this next cycle up, this next markup is going to be one of the finalities of this bull cycle. It is going to be the most intense. It will be the most euphoric. This will be the time when everyone starts to talk about Bitcoin going to millions of dollars. That's what happened in 2017. Right after we left that $6,000 mark, it's like, oh, TA is useless. You never know how high it's going to go. And ultimately, yes, these illiquid markets, when the supply starts to diminish, you can see these extraordinarily volatile up cycles. And it's one of the things we love about Bitcoin is its volatility to the upside. So even though Bitcoin is kind of going slowly right now, I think Ethereum leading the way is a positive indicator for multiple reasons. Number one, I think people have really underestimated the DeFi sector. Even a lot of the big boys that are playing in the Bitcoin sector don't necessarily understand the rest of the sector yet and how they're forming this unique kind of symbiotic relationship together. So if I look at Avalanche, we've actually seen a lot of nice growth and movement through Avalanche recently. Currently it's sitting at $35. We had a nice move up above the box and into the $40 region, which is nice because we were holding above that $37 mark. Anything above this $35 area into this kind of widening megaphone pattern looks great to me. We're actually witnessing something very similar with Serum as well, which is this kind of rising gradient, this widening megaphone, leaving out the backside. And one of the reasons why we look for repeating patterns like this, and actually a bunch of you guys would probably remember, this is identical to what we were witnessing in Fetch, Seller, Matic 1, where you had through our trading range, what you had was basically a falling wedge to some degree or another move into, and this is what the falling wedge would look like. The falling wedge moved out opposite into this widening megaphone. And we've seen this a few times back in March 2020, right as the pandemic was kind of starting its way. We started to see a lot of these falling wedges into opening or widening megaphone patterns right after the spring had taken place. Now, Mind you, with Serum here, this is a much smaller time frame, right? So here we're witnessing the buying climax and the totality of this experience for around 66 days. And with Avalanche here, you're currently at around 71 days. So time is kind of this mutable characteristic here, where what we want to do is, again, kind of measure and size up the entire bull market cycle, right? So we use Bitcoin and Ethereum as our lead indicators, and then we move into some of the others, basically like venture capital, whatever. I hope you understand what I mean by asymmetry, but here we have a limited amount of downside and an infinite amount of room for upside. And what that, I guess one of the good ways to translate that is the way the book Dan Dow talks about it, which is heads I win, tails I only lose a little bit. And that's a fantastic sentiment here. Had you made $1,000 investment in January in Avalanche, it could have went to zero. Sure, yes, it could have gone to zero. But instead, what you find is we are up approximately 1,213%, right? So since December, you've seen an enormous amount of movement in Avalanche. And that's really what we're looking to try to capture here, is that infinite room for upside potential and very limited room for downside risk. So I've made plays and entries in a bunch of tokens over the last little while. M stable, FTT has been doing really well for us. 1 inch as well, right up near the top of the box here, seemingly creating its final LPS is what it looks like to me here, which is quite nice to see as well. And because we're sizing up the whole market and we're seeing this a case for the bullish scenario here, again, ADA moving to the top of its trading range, creating what appears to be its backup here. Every one we go through, synthetics, falling wedge, right to the bottom of the spring. And likely here, what I assume we're going to kind of witness now is probably a widening megaphone pattern, not too dissimilar to what we have been witnessing across the board. And this is, again, kind of what we want to do is signify or learn about how these things kind of repeat over time. Actually, you might see a nice rising channel here through SNX, just as kind of a hypothesis. So because the whole market is sizing up to be very bullish, we see all these new trading ranges take place. Even with Balancer, we've broken above the top of the trading range here recently. Kava as well, holding out nicely. DOT right near the top of the trading range. Now, with DOT here, we could make the kind of argument and conjecture about, okay, well, here we're seeing a break above the top of the box and a lot of supply come in. And this is usually where you want to get worried, is where you have these large supply characteristics come in through the breakout of your first SOS. You don't want that supply characteristic usually to be any higher than our primary buying climax. And we're seeing something kind of similar here. So DOT is probably near a top, although I think it's got a lot of room for upside still. We can tell by the supply characteristics that we're like in the middle of this bull market. It's being held up by a fairly thin amount of a fair amount of volatility, right? So as the liquid supply leaves the markets, as supply leave the markets, the volatility increases, and we've kind of gone over that in the past. Let's see here. I'm going to drop out to this screen, go to this one. Where are we going to go back to? Glassnode. Yes, okay. So one of the ways we like to measure that, and kind of just the general supply characteristics in general, is to take a look at Glassnode. And what we're doing here with Glassnode is just generally watching the amount of supply that's on the open markets. We've kind of hit a floor at the moment. It's usually when Bitcoin's price drops a bunch that we see a massive amount accumulated. But as you can tell, since March 20th, basically, up until today, we've done nothing but remove supply from the market. And that's an important characteristic, again, to remember that, and again, here from March 11th, basically, we've only a locked up supply on the longer term. And again, what this does is that every day over day that the supply decreases, the volatility on the open markets increases. So the amount of supply it takes to move those markets decreases. And that's important because as we get closer and closer into this, people are always like, oh, well, Bitcoin can't go to $300,000 and $400,000. Well, yeah, it can, because in the heat of the moment when people are getting crazy, it only takes like one little buy and sell for Bitcoin to have this astronomically high price tag. And Ethereum's been doing the same thing too. We've actually seen a significant decrease in Ethereum's open supply. So if we go down here, we go exchange balance percent on all exchanges, Yeah, here it is. And again, with Ethereum as well too, we can see that for the most part on a day-over-day basis, we've been doing nothing but decreasing the supply in the open market. We've kind of hit that floor here, very similar time frame from around March 20th to where we are today. We've only been decreasing. So when we know that the supply is decreasing, the volatility is increasing, and we've measured our market up to tell that we are still extraordinarily bullish effectively, I've got nothing but upside potential in my eyes right here. And again, we go over this and for fun, you know, Dogecoin guys, I bought a bunch of Dogecoin about a week ago. If you're in the private den, you will you'll have remembered me saying this, but and even in our private webinar, one of the reasons why I bought Dogecoin is because it was kind of my vote for randomness. I constantly like to say, hey, you know what? I actually don't know everything in the world. Lo and behold, clearly it's a good thing to signal with oneself that I don't know everything. So because of that, I'm going to make sure I always own a little Doge. And I did that. And again, it was kind of a signal to myself just to remember that randomness exists, and I want to partake in that randomness. And a Doge has had this astronomically high uptick. Now, I'm not buying Doge here, but again, there's a beautiful trading range that took place here between February 20th and the breakout date here back at the beginning of April, April 13th, effectively. So we see a really nice trading range for the DeFi perpetual contracts, and then now this just massive explosion. Anytime something runs like this, guys, definitely don't chase it. You got a 550% gain on Doge. But again, this is why I bought Doge, is because I don't know what's going to happen in the future, and random things happen, and I want exposure to that randomness. And that's kind of how I've built my entire thesis up to this point, you know, and it's worked out really well for me. So we'll take a quick look at Rook. Rook is another one of our venture capital plays. We saw our nice for those of you in the private den, we saw a nice backup phase here on our trading range, and a nice breakout for our first kind of SOS in the backup phase. So it's quite nice to see. And again, just across the board, we're seeing a lot of tokens perform this nice these nice backup phases, and that to me is ultimately very bullish. I think that when you start seeing this kind of repetitive pattern everywhere, all leading to effectively what are SOSs in the backup phase for most tokens, yeah, you just start to get super excited. So I'm really excited about where everything's going right now. The portfolio grew very, very nicely the last 2 weeks. Just kind of planning some things. I've been looking at flights to Asia and kind of planning out my next few months here, what I want to do, where I want to go. So keep with that. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to open up the chat area now and take a look at how everyone's doing. Let's pontificate for a little bit. Maybe we even do a little bit of a longer show just because it's been so long. Let's see here. No VC talk about Doge. I did that already. Doge is not a joke. I don't think people really understand what Doge is. Probably because they just don't do any homework on the broad spectrum. Doge is not just a meme token. It uses a lot of this stuff is kind of like copy paste open source coding. So even if O is built off a meme and it has an inflationary model, it doesn't mean it's garbage. I think you guys should do more research if you say stuff like that. It just clearly means you've not gone and educated yourself. But yeah, that's a great way to do it. Just go do more research. But definitely don't be buying Doge this high for those of you that are listening. Can we go over the DeFi volume supply drop involving KNC in January? Let's take a look here. Do I have KNC on the charts right now? No. So I'll trade up Lena for KNC in a moment. So KNC, we've been sitting in. Most of our entries were back in January. If you're in the private group, you will have remembered those emails. So let's take a look at where we're at today. Okay, yeah, everything looks great. On the 6 hours where we're going to zoom out to, because we're going to a much larger time frame for both KNC and Band, as far as I remember. Okay, here we go. So, yes, KNC has been doing beautifully. So for those of you in the private group, you will remember we took our entries back here at around $1. Nice to see up. We're at $3.50. Fantastic. it broke out of the channel quite powerfully here. But again, if we measure this as a full trading range, here was your first SOS, your backup, SOS, backup, SOS. And I think that this strength here is really important to keep an eye on in KNC as well. You know, we are near the finality of the bull market, and we're getting a lot of this look at the crazy volatility in the spread. Every time KNC came down, it reduced like 40%, right? So we know there's a lot of open supply in the market. Every time the market price gets marked up, it gets dropped back down pretty clearly. So back here in June, July, you know, we see a lot of the supply being chewed up here in the first part of the bull market back in July, for when most of you probably weren't here. We took our accumulations because I did not own KNC at that point here, and we've had a lot of positive upside so far, which is great. The supply characteristics look fine. Again, when you see these big supply markers come in, like this one here back on April 10th, and this big wick, you could tell that there's a lot of retail in this market still, or at least, you know, people who are learning how to gain stronger hands throughout time. So I'm still in my position for KNC. I haven't touched it since we entered in late January, or in the beginning of January there. So we'll leave it at that. Loop Andy says, "Do you get involved in Mina?" I did not. I'm going to release the PDF on that today. I was a little late. I just been doing stuff at home. I'm kind of trying to gear up to get out of here a little bit. I meant to get that out on the 13th of the morning of the launch. You'll see why in the PDF why I didn't enter. Mostly because I'm busy doing a few other things right now. Otherwise, I would have. I think it's important to experiment. I think it's important to play around and learn about stuff. So that was my recommendation, is to play. But I did not at that time, actually, just to be frank and honest. Oh, that was M stable, not Band. We want to take a look at Band. So Band is another token that was following a very similar line compared to KNC. You can probably recognize how similar it looks by watching it now. We've blown up above the top of the resistance, and we're coming back down. And again, there's argument here to see that this is a much bigger, longer term accumulation range, with the primary SOS, a backup, and the secondary SOS taking place here. These again are the indicators to me that the bull market has got another big kind of leg in it. So yeah, super exciting. Johnny Happ says, "Why don't you get everything right 100% of the time, Tio?" Yeah, I know. I don't know. I wish, right? Come on, Tio. You can do better. You can get 100% of these right. How do you see FTX and FTT for the end of this bull market? I clearly never try to answer questions like price comparison near the end of the bull market. We just follow one step at a time, and we let that lead our way. Because it's just easier to not try to predict the future, but as things are happening, we can come up with a clear indicator of when token prices are done. So for those of you that are in the private group, I took most of my entries for FTT here at $32. A little later, I didn't recognize how badass FTT or FTX was in general. Guys, sign up for FTX. Go to arcanebear.com/FTX. I freaking love that platform so much. It's so much better than Binance for managing wealth. Took my entries here around this yellow circle we just built, and I've been sitting in my position so far. I'm not going to touch it. I think it's got a long ways to go still. Again, I'm just trying to size up the entirety of the bull market, not just one step or one token at a time. I do still have my positions in Matic and Seller. Yes, correct. Not full of them. Not all of them. I actually I took out my early principal far too soon. Sadly. Ronnie sounds like he's got a problem with life somewhere. Clearly. What's your prediction? I don't have any prediction. When the bull market ends, we'll know because we'll be watching. Doge made me millions. Awesome. I love that. That makes me happy. Yeah, Ronnie clearly sees Ronnie's got some problems here. He had a bad day. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's upset that other people are making money and he's not. Sorry, Ronnie, you must be having a bad day, guy. Nothing but poor comments from you. We went over Avalanche. Yeah, everything looks great. You'll have to rewind there. Yeah, we're about 17/21 the way through the bull market effectively today. We're just going to hide Ronnie from being able to make comments anymore because it's useless. Is Costa Rica good? Yeah, I love it. Can you recommend any books for learning TA? That's a kind of a difficult question. I think more than like technical analysis specifically, what's best for most people is to basically just read more in general. This month I read a book called 100 Baggers, and we read another book called The Tao of Buffett was good, not by Buffett, and Don Dao. Both 100 Baggers and Don Dao were amazing books. I had such a great time listening and reading to those. And I guess that's not really technical analysis so much as it is just understanding like market principles and different ways people play in the markets. For instance, take Ronnie, for example, here. He's clearly sucks at life by his comments. He doesn't know what he's doing. And people like that are like, oh yeah, Union Pacific is a shitcoin. It's like, dude, you have no idea how the markets work, do you? People like Ronnie need to learn how to read more because clearly they don't know what they're talking about. And what happens here is that if you don't read, you assume that you know. And if you did know, I would have probably found your name somewhere in the Forbes list. My name's not there, so I could say I don't know. But I clearly have addressed that I'm learning going through this process. And I'm really interested in growth of market cycles and things like FTT. Here's a revenue generating business in the trading world that's offering basically tokenized stocks for the first time. It's a huge it's a huge deal. I don't think people really recognize how big of a deal that is. So I'm here for the technical innovation and obviously the alpha that's available when you are focused on that. Anyone who calls something else a shitcoin at this point is just clearly poorly educated. And I feel bad for them at that point because there's so much cool stuff to learn here. Could you recommend any books in general? Oh, I loved Snow Crash, a fiction novel, and I loved Siddhartha, another fiction novel. Great books. What else I read this month? The 8 Lectures on Yoga by Aleister Crowley. That was good. Let's see. I started reading What Do You Care What Anyone Thinks About You by Richard P. Feynman. That's the second book by Mr. Feynman I've started reading. Guys, I just think like starting to read, one of the things that really switched up for me is that instead of getting stuck on not finishing a book, every time I got like to a part of a book where I wasn't happy, I just pick up the next book and I would read it. And sometimes new books would inspire me to finish that new. So I just kept reading more and more. And I also got heavily into audiobooks this last month just because I can stretch, do yoga and listen to books at the same time. Awesome. Well, it's great to have all you guys here with us today. It's been a little while since I had done a live stream. I should probably just chill here for a little bit. Jack up the view time with YouTube because YouTube's probably upset that I've been gone for so long. But again, guys, really simply, I think we already got out of the way. Everything looks bullish. I'm very stoked. Again, look at Avalanche jumping up to $36 here. I'm extraordinarily bullish on this whole market sector right now. Everything looks great. So we're gonna leave it at that. We're not gonna mess around with your guys' time. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm a huge fan of yours, and thank you for being a huge fan of ours. Deal with the Arcane Bear. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Oh yeah, and remember to go to all these channels below and follow us there. Yeah, follow us on Instagram and Twitter and all that fun stuff. I will be back live again tomorrow or Monday or something like that. I've had a great time. Let's see here. What are we going to do? We're going to go to Mexico. Probably going to move to Indonesia. I have this weird calling that I'm supposed to go to Indonesia. You guys are asking for music. Oh, Rebecca Riley says, I read Siddhartha 40 years ago. I fucking love that book. Siddhartha was amazing. It was, I couldn't put it down. I think I read it in like two nights or something. I was like, oh my God, this is great. It's like a TV show for me. I had a great time reading Siddhartha. It's a short book. If you guys hadn't read it yet, I definitely suggest it. It has nothing to do with markets, but it's a great kind of like, it's nice to see a story, like a metaphorical story about going through life and being okay with that. Some of you guys are asking if I could play the flute and if I could play some music. Play the guitar. Actually, okay. So, I think the guitar is in tune. Let's hear. So we'll have a little bit of fun here for a second. Before we end the episode, I know of you guys how much you like this. This is a song I wrote, I don't know, a year or two ago. Jesus, time just flies by. We'll see it. I haven't played it in a while. I do not play the mandolin, but I could probably try. Let's see here. Boom. So sadly, there's a crack in the guitar, so you can hear a little bit of the cracks, but. Anyways, I love this. Peter says, yoga requires a still mind. Peter, you're fucking ridiculous. I love when people think that they know what yoga is. It's fucking hilarious to me because you clearly do not. Yoga actually means anything. Like yoga, if you really, really study Sanskrit and you understand what yoga means, it means fucking everything. Because the universe is constantly in union with itself. It's learning all about itself from birth to death, from pleasure to pain. That's itself growing and understanding itself. And yoga is union. It is the act of union in all essence. And it literally means fucking everything. So people like Pete, no, yoga does not require a still mind. And I get extraordinary amounts of benefit. It's funny. And yeah, I just, guys, I love homework. I love research. I do so much research. Should we go to Patagonia before Indonesia? I would love that. That would be nice. Patagonia before Indonesia. I could just chill. I should just chill here and hang out with you guys for a little bit because it's been like a. It's like this. Yes, thank you guys. I could try to sing. I've been forever, just because I love you guys. Wait, is it the wrong tuning? Might be in the wrong tuning. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. It says. Above on a snow-peaked mountain, looking down to the valley of green below, where the rain, the sun shines down them. It'll be okay, I know. Anyways, I'm glad you guys asked for a little bit of music. It's one of my favorite things to do with life. This is also played the native flute. Nice, that's good. I love the native flute. Please do some more non-crypto blogs. I really enjoyed those. Okay, I feel you guys. I feel you. I'm going to get back out of my normal life more too. I've been wanting to do it. I've been thinking about it, packing up to get out on the road, just finalizing things here. I had to do my teeth and my taxes last week. And then this week, pretty much everything is ready to go. So I'm really, I'm really excited. I have this inkling that I'm supposed to be going to Indonesia. Maybe, I don't know why. I'm very excited about that. Tio, make an NFT collection of your life in Costa Rica. We're playing around with some ideas here for us to mess around with the NFT space. We started a new podcast called Space Chats. You can check us out on YouTube, although there's no content posted there yet. Are you going to make some videos about relocating to Costa Rica? I'm actually opening offices in Dubai, and I kind of want, I don't want to sound too facetious by saying this, but I want an Indonesian wife, I think. I may even know the person, but that's a different story. So maybe another home in Indonesia, home in Costa Rica, offices in Dubai, and citizens still in Canadian until I can figure out how to get rid of that stain on my shorts, basically. So I will make a few more videos, just kind of sharing with you what is the earning on tax in crypto. Guys, I have a very complicated setup. So it's not a simple question. Taxes in Costa Rica range anywhere between 1 and 20% for capital gains. For instance, I pay 1% on my property, but you'd pay around 15 to 20% on capital gains. But that's only within capital gains that you make trading in Costa Rica. It's really fucked up. You need to find a good accountant. That's my best suggestion. Find a good accountant to help you through all that shit. Let's see the garden. Yeah, my garden is crap right now, but the jungle does an amazing job of growing everything. I hardly have to do anything for that. This is really great. Makes it really easy. Yeah, we'll do a few more vlogs. We'll mess around. We're just making more content in general. It's been in the back of my mind the last little while, but just trying to kind of make it through my final little stint here in Costa Rica before I jump on the road again. And it's quite mellow here, so I've been kind of trying to take advantage of that feeling mellow mentality. Great. Avalanche jumped up to $37 there. Anyways, thank you guys. I really appreciate your support. It means the world to me. I love the Arcane Bear. So thank you guys for always giving us thumbs up, your comments. And for those of you that have just been listening and supporting us for the last 3 years, thank you so much. I never imagined that Arcane Bear would become like one of my main things. It was just meant to be a pet project where I talked about Bitcoin and pineapples because that's what I like and that's what I think is cool. And clearly that ended up being very lucrative. Pretty much liking Bitcoin. Pineapples didn't make me any money, but it makes me feel great when I grow and eat my own pineapples. So anyways, I'll start doing the live streams again here. I've just been trying to, I've just been going through my own like life stuff. Like, what do I want to do? I've done well for myself. So I want to focus on how do I continue to maintain and develop and advance. And I've chewed through like maybe 7 books since the last time we were on a live stream together. So it's almost like a week or two I haven't done a video, is it? Jesus. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you all for support. This is Tio with the Arcane Bear. We'll see you on the next episode. Bam.